Hello. Very, very pleased to be here. I realize I think it's the first time I speak at a DKNOG, which is kind of interesting after 12. Not good. Anyways, we're trying to make up for it right now. And today, we're moving a little bit up in the stack. I realized that it was almost a BGP topic we had before. And I realized that my title, BGP monitoring, could actually apply to the sessions. Are we monitoring the sessions? Are they up and down? And I think most of us, well, I know that some people have given up on that because they have so many, but usually it's in everybody's interest, they're up and down. But that is not the topic of what we will talk about. But first, I want to give just a slight introduction to the company that I work for now, Kentech. We operate in the space of what we call network observability, which is basically the ability to answer any question about your network. And those questions are all about, if we look at it very broadly, it's about how is the traffic flowing? Is it the network's fault when something breaks? Is it the application's fault when something breaks? Do we need more capacity? Are we under attack? And where are my routes being routed? So Kentech is an American company. We have around over 300 customers, every kind of network. It goes from carriers to enterprises to digital services to financial institutions to whatever. We put some of the more known logos up there. And most of our customers are very happy about us, and we're definitely very happy about them. But what we're talking about, what I'm going to try and talk about today is BGP monitoring. And that's just another question from our point of view that you should know about in your network when you're running a network. So I'm kind of curious, how many here consider themselves a network operator? I know we're at a NOG, so it should be many, but I just want to take a... How many are software developers? How many are both? Yeah, that's what I thought, right? So, but I think this, and how many are thinking about routing security and BGP in their day-to-day life? Not that many, but you know, I'm talking to you guys. Or maybe you know this already, and then we can enlighten the rest of them together. So what kind of inspired me to start talking about this was I was listening to my colleague, Doug Mandori, and Joop Snijders from Fastly's talks at NANOG a couple of months ago. Is it already? Yeah, something like that. And they were talking about that, you know, we're reaching critical mass when it comes to our KPI. And just a reminder, our KPI is the ability, the way we're securing that the prefixes that we are receiving and sending using BGP on the internet are actually originated where we want them to be, the owners. They have secured that nobody can hijack, or it's a little bit more difficult at least to hijack their prefixes, more specifics. You know, if everybody adhered to this, do we reject the invalids and everybody is signing? We have a lot of security on the internet. Why should we care anymore? And they were looking at, are we getting there? Because it's taken a while for this to be implemented. There's a lot of objection to it, like we have some centralized stuff on the internet that's decentralized. We don't really like that. But anyways, if we look at the traffic that's being routed, we're actually reaching critical mass. It is only very, very small fraction of the internet traffic that's being sent, the volume of the traffic, not thinking about the counting the prefixes, but the traffic being sent that is going to prefixes that are invalids. So it should be safe now for everybody to implement dropping the invalids. So happy new world, routing is safe. So do we even care about thinking about, should we look at the global routing table and see what's happening with the prefixes? And obviously, you all know the answer to this, but I'm going to state the obvious. Yes, we should still be looking at what's happening with the prefixes on the routing table. I just want to repeat the really good best practices that my two colleagues gave in that talk, which is all of you, think about, create your ROAS, reject invalids, but do not look at the invalid status and do some routing changes based on that. That can create bad things. Don't do that. Don't change your local pref. You might start sending traffic to your customers that you don't really want to send to. And don't, change the communities and all that kind of thing based on invalid status. Just a little reminder, and then go home and think more about Air KPI if you want to. Or you should. Not if you want to. You really should. But I'd like to talk about all the other things that we can monitor. And now our KPI is actually just yet another thing that we should keep an eye on when we're looking at the prefixes that we receive from our peers and our transits, and also looking at how is our prefixes routed on the internet. So it takes two sides. And I think I probably just mixed it all up. So we'll just talk about each of the use cases as we go along. But we think about BGP monitoring in two ways. How is my address space seen on the internet? And what do I see coming into my network from my connections to the internet? And I've listed this is the list of monitoring things. I probably forgot something, so please let me know afterwards or during the questions what I've forgotten, and we can have a conversation about that as well. But first of all, let's talk about monitoring, withdrawals, and announcements. Why would we care? Well, I know somebody who cared in January or February when some prefixes disappeared on the internet. That's a good case. If your prefix disappears completely, or a prefix where a service that's important for your customers disappear on the internet, you want to know about it. Anybody know which event I'm talking about? You can yell it. Yeah. Anyways, but there's another case that where we should consider this as well, because are we seeing a lot of withdrawals and announcements of maybe our own prefix? Or again, a service we care about is served from that prefix. What does that even mean? Well, that means that somewhere on the internet, somebody might having a session that's flapping up and down. That will create disturbance of traffic going that way. And maybe it's something you can do something about. In particular, maybe it's inside your own network. So you could investigate that. And if it's somewhere on the internet, you could do something to route your traffic away from that path. So it's good to know, and it's definitely, if it's disturbing your own service, it's something you want to know about when you're running your network. The next thing is reachability. I mean, we put our address space out on the internet because we want the internet to reach our addresses. That's as simple as that. And most of the time it works. And should we think about whether we're reachable or not? Maybe not. But I remember one case from when I was sitting as a network engineer and announcing new prefix space. It was really, really interesting to see how long did it actually take for this space to be accepted by everybody on the internet. Was it a couple of days? Did I actually have to call somebody and ask them to update their filters? I actually did sometimes. So I know that we don't really have that much new space, so maybe it's not that often. But I also know that people are trading space with each other, and all of us networks that grow, we will have new address space. And it's interesting, we really need to know in an easy way, is it reaching everywhere on the network? Is it safe for me to start putting my services on that space? The last thing on this slide is leaks. Leaks are fun, right? And we can always do something about it because I am not making mistakes in my policies. So the most important place to look for leaks is inside my network, and when I bring up a session with a new peer or with a new transit. But the thing is, leaks are really, really difficult to protect yourself from. So you want to know if your addresses are somehow involved in a leak space. And why can that have that big, really big consequences? That somebody in, say, India is leaking all of their address space to their provider? Do we really care about that? Well, we do, because we have the local pref thing. When we do, is everybody here familiar with BGP? That's what I thought. All right. Awesome. So, are you also familiar with the best practices going, we prefer sending traffic to customers, or we're sending it to peers, or we're sending it to our upstreams? Most of us. Well, most ISPs prefer that. Why is that? Well, customers pay you. Peers are free most of the time. And you have to pay you upstream. So I want to send the traffic where it costs me nothing, or where I get money for it. Yay, money, we like that. But what happens then if you have one customer that's dual-homed and they have a fat-fingered engineer? The engineer opens up the policy and announces all their space they have in the routing table to the other upstream. Well, then your network, that might be even far away from this customer, will certainly have, from maybe a big provider, best route going down to that customer because of local pref. Woohoo! Not very good. My colleague told me a story about that happening to Comcast and an Indian provider a couple of months ago. And for half an hour or so, all of Comcast address space was routed to this little ISP in India from some of the big providers. Not a great situation. So leaks are important. We want to know about them right away, at least so we can call somebody and yell at them. So another thing to think about, and this is one of the things that our KPI is helping us with, is origin changes. I have a prefix. I know it's supposed to come from this ASN, or it was originated in this ASN, and suddenly it's originated somewhere else. Uh-oh, do I really want that to happen or not? So sometimes it's okay, but you want to know about it. And sorry, I have to stand the right place. And also, if your customers or you yourself is using a critical service that comes from a specific prefix that has a specific origin, if suddenly that origin changes, you might want to stop sending that traffic. Maybe it's a bank, maybe it's something that has confidential information, whatever. You don't want that to go somewhere that you don't know about and that you don't think is right. So again, an important one. We all know hijacks. We all remember back, I don't know. No, actually, I see a lot of young folks here. You do not remember when we all routed YouTube to Pakistan, because some of you were not born then. But some of us remember when that happened. And as I mentioned before, our KPI status is an important thing to monitor. And one thing that is also important to think about when you have our KPI status, because you might want to drop the invalid, or maybe not. Maybe it is actually important that maybe they broke something and you still want to send traffic to them. Maybe they were just sending more specifics, and they forgot to sign a ROA for the more specifics. So I think a good thing to look at as well, we think at Kentic, is that not only is the status of the ROA, but also do you have a covering prefix maybe that has a valid status or an unknown status, so you still want to send traffic to it. Then you can send that traffic and you can safely drop the more specific, but maybe if the more specific is invalid and it used to not be, you should investigate what the fuck happened. Sorry, what happened. So, and finally, we're talking about AS paths. And again, I remember many years ago when we started to talk about the man-in-the-middle attacks. And again, so we want to know what is happening to the AS path of the traffic we're sending. Is it as it usually is, or is it suddenly changing very dramatically? Do we want to figure out why that happened? And maybe we're running a service that has latency sensitive, so suddenly getting a longer path might also make sure that longer AS path may also mean that we have an actually longer route or longer, God, I can't find the right word, but we're sending it a longer way with higher latency, and maybe we don't want to do that. We need to go fix something, some policies somewhere. All right. So that's all very good. But how can we do that then? So I'm going to take another poll. How many here is using some sort of BGP monitoring tool already? Oh, that's a fair amount. Commercial or something you built yourself? Commercial, right hand, something you built yourself left? Okay. All right, you can just go to sleep or do your emails now then. And then the rest of you can listen to what we are talking. So when we monitor BGP, as I said, we are both looking at what's coming in, being announced into our network. That one is relatively easy because we can then look in our own routing table, keep an eye on what's going on, collect the data, and store it and do whatever, all the stuff that I'm writing that I'll talk about a little bit later about what we do. But the other thing is, how is your prefixes looking on the internet? Well, going back to the case we talked about before, announcing new space, I remember sitting there looking at one looking glass and then the other looking glass and then logging into route use and then doing greps, and it took a long time. I mean, I thought it was super, super fun. I was looking into the black screen with the green text on. It was feeling very, very cool. But it did take a long time. But I was actually using some of the data sources that I'm talking about here, and that's the route views and the routing information system, and then, of course, the looking glasses or your peers. So those are the data sources for this data that we need in order to monitor what's going on with our space on the internet. So somehow we have to get hold of that. And I think my next slide is actually a little bit about routing information service, which most of you probably know is run by the RIPE NCC. And we can all get access to the data. Most of us will just go to the web page and go and have a look and do queries. But if you're building an actual system yourself, you can get access to the whole data set and get it streamed to you in sort of almost real time, and then collect and build something that can give you the alerts yourself. Researchers are using this data set as well in order to try and figure out what's going on the internet. Route Use is American-based. It's run by University of Oregon and was been around probably before I was born. Not quite, because that was in the Stone Age, but before I was educated, I think. And both these types of systems are collecting routes all over the world from collectors, so pieces of hardware they have installed all over the world, and is peering with whoever want to peer with them at exchanges all over the world, collecting the data, sending them back, storing it in big databases, and making them available for everybody. We all want to support it, so if you can, go support these people because they're doing good work. And both of them allow everybody to use their data, even for commercial purposes, as long as you adhere to the rules that they have set up for exactly that. So those, along with what we're learning from our peers, those are the data sources for a monitoring system. Then you need to be able to handle really large data sets and store them in a smart way so you can get the information out of them what you want. And you have to build a system that can query them in a time that is acceptable for you. And in particular, if you want to get alerts, set up rules and software that will give you the alerts when it happens. And then, because we're all very cool today, you also maybe visualize or present these data in a way that makes it useful for whoever is using them. We believe at Kentic that visualization is great. So it's one of the things that we try to do very much in our system, which is a commercial system. I will not run away from that fact. But the visualization, getting the information at a glance from a graph is very important and something that I think everybody is looking into these days. Right. And again, I'm going to circle back to the beginning. We believe that BGP monitoring is part of one bit of everything that you need to know about your network, no matter what kind of network you're running. Obviously, if you're an ISP or a big network with a lot of address space, it might be more important for you to monitor what's going on the internet. But most networks will have benefit from it and be part of why is this broken, or being alerted on, hey, there's something you should look at. And now it's time for questions and for you to tell me, what did I miss? I can't believe I didn't miss anything. Come on. All right. One last thing. We are here, 2 people. If you want to talk more about this or anything else, come talk to us. And finally, we are hiring, and we don't care where people live if they're good. So take a look at our website and go and have a look at the jobs. Thank you.